So today we have a very special guest in the studio, a co-podcaster in the industry in parking, Mr. Brian Wolff from Parker Technology.
Welcome,
Brian, welcome.
Hey, thank you very much. I am so honored to be here. I appreciate you guys being open about or being open about crossing us over and creating an event where the whole idea is rising tides raises all ships. And, ultimately, we were talking just before, so we'll try and recreate what we were talking about. But ultimately, my dream is to try and figure out how to get this thing crossed over into the mainstream.
Right.
Because we're all preaching to the choir today. We all know how hard parking is. And what we're trying to do is get across to everyone, the general public, how hard parking really is.
Right. And so, we just asked you, so if you don't mind going through it again.
Yeah, for sure.
How do you explain what you do? How do you explain the parking industry? Because as I mentioned, I have a really hard time. One of my, flaws is in the industry. It's like, I have a really hard time explaining exactly what I do to people who are not in the industry. And I need to be better about that, especially with friends and family. I've said it before, like I get a little bit frustrated when people don't understand what I'm trying to say, but I do it from an inside industry perspective and not from an outside perspective.
Yeah.
And so I think that you had some really great ways to do that. So I need to hear this again.
Yeah, no, let's get it captured this time. We're recording.
Yeah, we're recording. And let's be clear, Brian's been, in the industry for 35 years.
Well,
Wow.
I've been
for 8.
Parking 8.
Yeah.
I have been in the business world for 35 years.
Yeah.
And we'll dive into that. But
yeah.
So,
well, I think for me, what I try and convey to folks is that it's obviously a lot more complex than it looks. And then I explain to them, I say, listen, in an 8-hour day, you could actually be 3 different types of parkers. So you go to work in an office space, you've got a Prox card, you try and go in, or you got some access credential. You go in, you want the gate to go up, and so you park and you want to go to your office. But you have lunch at noon. You go across town, you go pull a ticket, or you pay with transient parking, you become a transient parker. And then in the evening, if you go to a basketball game or a football game, you're engaging parking as from an event piece perspective. And so you are 3 different types of parkers. And so the operators, all 3 of those operators, whether it's the same or 3 different, they have to manage the inventory so that they know that you've got a parking spot when you come into the office.
Right.
You've got a parking spot when you come to lunch. And then they're coping with thousands of cars coming to an event. You're just trying to get to the darn basketball game, right? You're not worried about the logistics of cramming all these cars in and then making it easy for them to egress, because
it's a really good point, and especially facilities that have multi-personalities that are right around large venues, right? So you're trying to get if there's a 7:05 game and it's summertime, you're trying to get your daily people out while you're trying to get your event people in.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's
the mixed use space is very, I wouldn't say it's very complicated to manage.
Yes.
right.
And so I would say, our ability to tell people that are I call them 1 degree separated from parking, is to just describe to them, just feedback to them what their day looks like from a parking perspective, and say that we have to cope with that as parking operators, as parking people, because all you want to do is park. I heard you say yesterday, we want parking to be the most non-event thing on the planet. Right. Then we know we've done our job.
The best. What do you say, John?
That's my slogan. Is the best parking experience is the one never remembered. Right? You're not.
Yeah,
that's not your destination.
Yeah.
So if you set out to try to if you want to be a good provider of parking, your goal should be never to interact with the customer and have the customer forget about parking. Right?
You want it to be seamless, right? It's not the destination, but we are most definitely about the journey. Like parking is the journey, right? We are the first and the last impression when it comes to a parker, and we want it to be a great experience, but we don't want them to technically remember the experience that they have with parking. We want them to be able to go into the event venue or the business that they're going to and have a wonderful experience, flawless.
Right.
So it's up to us. It's up to us, the people here in this room, to make
It
that.
is up to us.
In so many different ways. It's up to us to make that a great experience.
Yep. And oh, by the way, everybody's got a story. I mean, all you have to do is tell people you're in parking, and then they'll tell you story after story after story.
They're like,
Great stories.
Yeah.
I think you used
absolutely.
the term gritty parking people, right?
I just love parking people because to survive in parking for more than 90 days, because most people eject, at least in our business,
right.
If you make it 90 days, you'll make it 3 years.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's the same as on the operator side. You have to be gritty. You have to bring it. You have to want to do above and beyond because those cars are coming whether you're ready or not.
It is. It's not. Yeah, you're right. It's, the cars are coming whether or not. The people who park. I mean, the comments, the reviews, everything. They're always flowing in, and it's not.
I think it's a special kind of person because
absolutely.
If you want to sit behind a desk and have executive-itis, I call it, then parking's probably not for you, right?
It's definitely not for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's got to be dirt under your fingernails for sure.
Definitely takes a
And
special type of person.
That black mark on the back of your suit coat,
Ooh, no one wears suit coats anymore.
I know. Thank God.
Yeah.
But we did.
Yeah.
Back in the day, running through parking garages in a suit.
A suit and tie. Yeah.
Sweating your ass off.
Getting the heebie-jeebies just thinking about it.
You're breaking out in a sweat just thinking about it.
Anyway.
Yeah, brutal. All right.
So 35 years. So you're Parker Technology. Tell us about Parker Technology.
Yeah, so Parker had a life before I got there, but it was really used as an internal tool for a parking operator in Indianapolis.
Okay.
And I think the thing that set it free was in about 2004, 2005. I don't know if you all probably know Mark Pratt.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So Mark Pratt, he actually authored a patent for a two-way video in a parking facility. And then that patent then turned into 4 patents. And then Mark, obviously, he left the business in 2017, probably.
Okay.
So he's out completely. Everybody still sort of associates Mark Pratt with
Is he a
two-way
Central
video.
Parking alum?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Man, like, who isn't a Central Parking
I mean,
alum?
well,
okay.
I love
me, but
I love that group. They're just solid.
Oh,
Anyway.
there's lots of people.
Yeah.
I mean, all roads lead. If you've been in the industry for 20 years, it leads back to Central.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, so in 2015, they rebuilt the platform. They rebranded it to Parker Technology.
What was it
And
before? I'm sorry.
It was called, I think, RPM Technologies.
Okay.
Oh yeah, okay. I think I
But it
remember.
was really just an internal tool. The two-way video was sort of the gateway to other operators asking to use the technology because Mark's rationale at the time was, if I'm going to take the human out of the lane, I can put the human back in the lane virtually.
Yeah.
Right, with two-way video. And so in 2015, I actually did some sales consulting for them in 2015, and then my chairman, so Perry Griffith, asked me then in 2016 or late in 2015 to come run the company.
That's great.
Yeah.
So before Parker, you were in parking.
No,
So-
I was actually so from 2006 to 2014, I co-founded a technology company that was a cloud computing company, but we didn't call it cloud back in 2006.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
we would tell people that you could do things with their IT infrastructure, and they would look at me like I was nuts. And then by 2008, actually, it was Dell that coined the phrase cloud computing.
Yeah.
And it might be a dub, but the reason they called it cloud computing is because on a whiteboard, when you would signify that the traffic, the network traffic was going this way and then that way, they
You draw a little cloud over it. Yeah.
draw a little cloud.
Yeah. Yep.
Then it became
The
the cloud. Yeah.
So you're a true techie.
So again, that 35 years mostly has been sales and marketing.
Okay.
But I know enough technology to be really dangerous.
Right.
And I also probably know enough about technology to know that it's really hard to do. Right. So
Right.
it's kind of like parking. I like to do hard things. People know me for someone who likes to do hard things because the harder it is to copy.
Right.
Right.
Right. And I know if I go into the bramble, the person coming behind me is going to have just as hard a time, maybe harder, to get through to where all the things that I've figured out.
That's how that's how I feel the space that I'm in.
Yeah.
Is because it, you hang a couple cameras and people think, oh, I can send out a couple letters, but the regulation and the liability associated with sending out notices to people's houses it's huge, and most people don't understand.
Yeah.
And then they find out the hard way.
Hard way. You start messing with the consumer, and the government gets a little bit touchy about that, I'm sure.
They do. So
because all they're doing is calling Congress. Call your congressman, and then it's trouble.
So 8 years in parking, and that started with Parker Technology.
It did. Yeah, that was my first parking job.
And you're loving it.
Oh, I love parking. Again, so I love parking because it's complex.
Yeah.
So it's a lot deeper.
It's hard. It's harder than it looks.
Yeah, it's harder than it looks. Shameless plug for my. It sounds like a shameless plug for my podcast.
Harder than it looks podcast.
We're definitely going to talk about that. We're going to dive into that a little bit later. But 8 years.
Yeah, so 8 years in parking. I love it. The gritty people. So I would come home for the first at least 2 years. I would come home and tell Jill, my wife, 30 years in August, I would tell her I just met the nicest.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, congrats.
I just met the nicest people you would ever want to meet. And so the first couple of times she's like, oh, that's nice. But by the fifth or the sixth or the seventh time, she's rolling her eyes. And I'm like, no, I'm serious. Yeah. These are the nicest people you would ever want to meet. Right. And so that's that. I'm telling you that parking people are gritty, right? They bring it. They're nice.
Right.
And in the end, it is such a thankless job, which is, again, back to the whole crossover concept.
Right.
I'd like people to really appreciate, kind of like servers, right? You go to a restaurant, servers, the people that are working 24/7, those are thankless jobs.
Yeah.
Right.
This industry it's I always say there's no better people in any other industry than the parking industry. Like you said, they're nice, hardworking, gritty. I have never met, no matter what level you are, whether you are a supervisor, a manager, a director, a VP, a C-suite, everybody works so hard in this industry. Like we always say, like, I would never ask you to do anything that I wouldn't do. And my leader, my boss, Joe, is the same way. Like he's out there, he's sweeping up, debris.
I call that doing windows, right?
Yeah,
and that's with any business. But if you don't do windows, people don't have a lot
I feel like
of respect
in this industry in particular, like you don't learn parking unless you learn it from like the ground up, right? Yeah. Gates, gateless, like I'm picking up trash. Like we're all doing the nitty gritty of the business, and everybody at the end of the day is so happy to talk about it. Let's grab a drink. Let's like, it's just a wonderful industry to be in. So I couldn't agree with you more there, Brian.
I think Brian's touching on something though. I mean, from the public, and I think the press, does a great job of hitting, hit jobs on our industry.
Yep.
Because it's an easy target. I think politicians over the years have used it to get, to move their elections along. Higginlooper's one of those.
Not to get political or anything.
Those commercials where he dropped the little coin in the meter and he was on his scooter. So, but parking is one of those things where any city hall, there's always a parking person that's sitting in a meeting somewhere that has to do with either planning, development, something. There's a parking person there. Yeah. So. I've always said this. You could go from cleaning up a stairwell in a parking garage of stuff that you could never imagine yourself doing, and then an hour later you're in the mayor's office meeting.
You do it all.
Yeah. That's what I love about.
I've fixed gates, not being all suited up in a suit and tie or anything, but gone from fixing gates to sweeping up trash to meeting with the owners of the asset that we're running. Like you do it all in one day. Just like Brian, earlier you made this great point. Like one person could be 3 different types of parker in an 8-hour span. You could be a monthly, then you could be a transit, just going somewhere else, and you can be going to an event. You could be an event parker as well. Like that's who we are in the parking industry. We're so many different people on a daily basis.
Yeah. So when I was in operations, when first coming out with command centers and everyone had I have a funny story. So there was and there's probably people listening that will be laughing about this because it's true.
Everyone laughs at the stories, John.
Yeah. So we're in a presentation, and I'm like, we're going to touch people in places they've never been touched before. And that was because what I was trying to say is, look, I can now greet somebody at the elevator lobby, right?
Yeah.
Instead of, and that was my point. But apparently the property manager and everyone was looking, and they were like shocked and had these faces, and then the whole room burst out laughing.
You're like,
I'm
oh.
Whoa, what did I just say? Touching people in places they've never been touched before.
Like,
in a parking garage.
Yeah.
That's,
Out of all places.
It was pretty funny.
They're like, don't be in a dark corner with John Conway over here, please.
Yeah. They probably weren't surprised that John said it, but they were shocked that...
John's like, what did I say wrong?
What did I do? What did I do?
What did I do? Yeah, that's good.
But, I mean, that's what technology like yours is bringing to the table, right?
Yeah,
and now it's it's evolved even more to QR code, right?
Yeah, I mean, so again... and I've heard you talk about this. I wrote this down as a topic that we need to get into. Right, we have to be able to collaborate. We have to be able to share information. Okay, it's obvious after seeing the expo yesterday that PRRS is a lot more than just LPR. Right, that you're trying to do things in a much broader way, and so I don't want to be an expert at that, but I want to tap into it because I think putting information in the fingertips of the person who's taking the help call, no matter what it is, whether you're shooting a QR code and it's on a mobile phone or you're pushing a help button.
So important.
Well, you put that information in their hands and they can just be so much more helpful.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And full disclosure, that's what we're going to be working with you at Parker Technology on is putting out customer service QR codes so we can start to first, we want to see what we're going to, what we're going to hear, but we want to start getting the feedback from people right away. Like, so all of a sudden now with the data and the notices, you might have, like, we track, like, all of a sudden this lot has, 100% more notices than it normally does.
Yeah.
So we start looking, right? What's going on? Is the API working? Now, if you take your technology, couple that in with the data, it's kind of like, okay, we know what's going on. These people are calling all of a sudden saying that QR code doesn't work and I can't pay.
Yeah.
Well,
now I put that together.
Yep.
Because let's face it, I know people don't believe this, but we don't want to write notices.
Yeah.
Right? We want to provide the data. We want compliance. We want to be able to, and that's where we're moving as a company.
Yeah.
Sure, notices are our core business, but I would say in the next 3 to 4 years, it's going to be like 20% of our revenue stream is notices.
And I think that, like, the space that now you're moving into, John, with Parker Technology with Brian, I think is huge for the guest, for the consumer, right?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
I personally, I've been in the business. I've been in the business, but I still have parking anxiety. Like, if I go, and I've told this story.
Too.
Yeah. I've told this story where I think on a few episodes ago where, I pulled into a gate, like a hybrid of a gateless, gated gateless facility. And I had no idea what to do. Like, there was no helpline. There was nothing. And there was like a payment station, but you still couldn't press the help button. And I was like, in my immediate,
so where does your
thoughts,
anxiety come from? It's
because I'm like, well,
worried about getting towed or something?
Towed or ticketed. Trust me, I get a lot of tickets. I've been towed before. And I work, this is while I've been in the industry. And so I'm like, it would just be nice. And I immediately thought of Parker Technology. I'm like, oh my God, I wish there was someone I could talk to. And
I'm the opposite. I want to be towed. I want to be ticketed.
We know you're the rebel.
I honestly, like, when I get a ticket, like, I've only been towed once, but I'm like, I can't be bothered. Like, I'll pay my ticket.
Rule follower. You're like,
well, apparently I'm not a rule follower because I get all
I know.
of
It
these.
sounds like I better check your license plate when you leave.
Oh, you should.
You
I'm
might
sure
have to
I think with you guys, I got like 10 or.
You might have to write
it's
us a
all good.
check.
Yeah,
Totally
before
fine.
she leaves.
Yeah.
So if I could go back to what you said, I think the for us, what people may not appreciate is that roughly 3% of the traffic that goes in and out of a facility gets caught with confusion or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So we call them the exceptions, right? So there's roughly 3% exceptions. And so if somebody has a successful transaction, you capture that through whatever systems you have. What you don't know is you don't know about those 3%. So Parker sort of fills in the gap. And if you're running $1 million or $2 million or $3 million or $50 million operation, 3% is a real number.
That's a big,
right.
Yeah.
You've got to, and so you at least have to be able to understand. It's back to the PRS's push to get more insight, more data.
Right.
You at least have to know what's going on.
Right.
That's what we do. Because we're capturing why the human pushed the button in the first place, or why they called, and how it got resolved. And your ability then to mine that data for insight around, okay, they're obviously confused. There were no signs. I don't know what to do. Those are the kinds of things. That's the kind of insight that we're surfacing for our customers.
And that's what's so exciting about what you guys are doing. Because I remember, these command centers and having to put in, I'm sure people still put in intercoms and even with your system, but being able to utilize your own cell phone and a QR code and be able to talk.
Yeah.
Like, tell me, I'm fascinated by that, because I remember we had to, at some of the operator places, we had to use this brand of intercom. I won't mention the name, but it was pricey.
Yeah,
right?
it was very expensive.
So you got to go back to your client and say, oh, we're going to put these in every lane. It's like, how much is that? Oh my gosh.
Is the QR technology now, is that more for like gated? Are you guys doing it in a gated setting as well?
So it's back to who needs the information when.
Right.
And so if it's in a gateless environment, then you're going to put a sign up every, 10 feet or 12 feet, or you're going to put it in key places. The trick will be figuring out how to differentiate between paying and actually asking for help.
Right.
But I will tell you, we're also working behind the scenes to make our technology part of the help button inside the app. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you got an app and you say, I want help, you press help.
Or you want to pay.
Or you want to, so you pay on the app, yes, but I'm confused. I want help. That will actually initiate the same call that a QR code will initiate.
See, these are the kind of innovations that I love hearing about.
See, me too.
Yeah.
Because that is where, so we're also implementing a third-party arbitration service. So, like, if you've gotten a notice, you've appealed it with PRS, and you don't like the outcome, you can go to a third party. Now, it's been challenging because of the pricing and keeping that price down for people.
Yeah.
So we finally found an organization that fits the mold. It's only like $20. Each side pays their 20. Whoever loses, they get their money back, or they get their money.
Yeah.
And then the arbitrator gets the $20, whatever.
Right.
But the loser has to pay for that. So, that type of program is good because it allows us to say, look, to the press and to negative publicity.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden it's like, look, we gave them an opportunity. A third party heard it that has nothing to do with us.
Right.
Objective. So it's just one. And now I think adding your technology in allows us to be able to say, look, there was
help.
There was help. So if something didn't work, they could have used the QR code for help and actually talk to somebody.
It's adding that additional layer. It's adding an additional layer that I think that the industry needs.
All those things it will start to make it more difficult for the News 5 guy or gal to say, oh, you guys are just out trying to screw everybody. And it's like, well, no, we're not. I mean, they could have done this, they could have done that.
Well, and I think that's one thing. I mean, it's so refreshing to hear, right? Because a lot of operations, whether they're, like very, very private, one man ran, we get a lot of, negative feedback because the industry is not consistent with their communication. You can park at one lot and it could be like $5 and that's all it says. And that's all it says. Or you can go to another lot that's, really well signed with information. It tells you everything, but we're not consistent across the industry.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, a big, we get criticized a lot for, you guys are scammers. You're just trying to take our money.
I know.
And so I think
people hate to pay for parking.
They really do.
They really do.
They do. But, if you're going to.
So they're confused, I think, because I can go I can go right here in Denver and probably find, or in Littleton or somewhere in the outskirts, and probably find a surface lot that's free.
Right.
Right. And then I find another one that's gated. I think actually we're making more progress because I think more people are putting gates in because they think they now realize the potential of being able to reap benefit off of it. And by the way, is it Mike that always says there's no such thing as free parking? It's just that who's paying the bill or who's doing the validation, right? So that surface lot costs real money to maintain. There's taxes associated with it. I think that's the missing piece.
That is. Most people don't understand.
No, they think it's just land and it's free and like I can just park my car. No.
The tax increases since COVID down. I'm just taking Denver on those properties and those parcels. It's 3-4 times.
Is it really?
What it was. I mean, it's insane. And so that has to be paid somehow.
It's an expense.
So parking is a business.
Yeah.
That land, instead of building a 7-Eleven, they're operating it as a parking lot, and it's a business. Yeah. And most people lose sight of that.
Yes.
Including some of our government folks. I think right now I think there's an assault on private property rights. I mean, that's in my opinion.
Well, I think that it's such an easy mark. Because you can get the public to say, yeah, those bums, throw them out, or those bums in parking just trying to take advantage of us, right? We're such an easy mark that way,
right?
I think the standardization piece probably it's going to be hard because it's super fragmented.
Yeah,
there are lots of different owners, lots of different approaches, but again, for me, it's back to this collaboration where we can begin to try and standardize what it looks like from a provider perspective. That then will help the operators present a more unified or standardized approach. Now that is pie in the sky. That's probably as ambitious as being 100% EV in 10 years.
Yeah.
Right.
But I do think as the technology, if we sort of band ourselves together, I think we can present sort of a unified front to the customers, which would make it easier for them to pay and get on their way.
Right.
Right. Because if you make it easy, that at least makes it easier.
Right.
And one of the biggest reasons why I decided to get into the parking industry when the opportunity was presented to me was because one thing that I knew is I hated parking my own car. It was stressful. I didn't care much for paying for parking. I had no idea. And I was like, if I can come in to an industry that I really don't care for, but help change the mind of 1, 2, 3, 5, 100 people, and make it just a little bit easier, make their experience better, and make it a little bit easier for them to park their car.
Yeah.
Like, why would I not want to be part of that process? And why would I not want to be part of that experience for them? And, at the end of the day, when someone says, I had a great experience.
Yeah.
If it's one parker out of 3,000 that I parked, I know that I've made even just a little bit of impact.
Yep. So
I thought you got into parking because you wanted to stop getting towed and ticketed.
No, I think I got a lot less tickets before, and I never got towed until I was actually in the industry.
Now you're the biggest scofflaw we have.
You
I've already
probably are. It's like 3 pages.
I've already
sure.
texted somebody. They're running your plate as we speak.
Oh, please
That's
do.
hysterical.
Tell them I need an outstanding because outstanding balance.
How about if you just go ask for one magic wand to make it all disappear?
Yeah.
I pay for my parking tickets.
I know people.
I do. I pay for my parking tickets.
I pay for mine.
Yeah, well, you have to.
I got a parking ticket recently at the airport, and I was like, I pulled my ticket off, and it was like expired tags, and I was like, my tags are not expired. And I look, I'm like, there's no way July of 2023 that I haven't renewed my registration.
Oh my God.
I know. So I text, so I was like, this can't be true. And Joe was like, no, you need to make sure your registration is up to date. He's like, because his tag got stolen. Like, this is a thing going on at Denver International Airport. Like, people are just pulling off stickers. And I wish I could say that that was the case.
Really?
No.
You went? Wow.
I've been riding dirty for about a year.
That's.
I was like, how did this happen?
That's one of those things. Yeah, you driving at 10 o'clock on a Friday night, coming back from happy hour.
That's a bad deal.
Okay, I don't. Let's.
Not that you drink and
drive.
drive.
No,
I'm not
yeah.
insinuating.
But
how about if you have one?
Yeah.
Right? Because then you got to answer the question truthfully.
I've been traveling all over Colorado. I think I've made a few trips back home to New Mexico. I take the express toll all the time, and I'm like, I had no idea.
So old school Colorado, I think people take a razor blade and they do like an X on the sticker. Oh. So once you've put it on your plate, that way you can't take the whole piece off, right?
Yes. So I'm going to do, when I get my new tag.
They move on to the next tag, right? They see that and they're like,
They were like, I can't even steal the 2023 tag. Why would I want to steal that? We're 2 years past that almost.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they're like,
I'm going to start checking your car.
I'm not stealing that tag. It's useless to me.
I'm going to start checking
We're going to
car.
notify the authorities here. She needs a ticket so we can come back and steal her new tag.
But I want to go back. So you wanted to get into parking because you wanted to help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Again, these are the profiles of the people that get into parking. They have a passion for helping.
Yeah.
And then clearly you like to work hard, because if you didn't like to work hard, then you wouldn't be in parking.
Yeah.
So
I know. I appreciate that. I think till this day, I take what I do very, very seriously. And it's almost, when I talk about it, I travel a lot with my friends and who hate to pay for parking. And like, this is one of, like I said, like I have a really hard time explaining. I'm like, if you have a car, you should expect to pay for parking. And they're like, oh my God, okay. All right. Sorry. But yeah, it's, I'm still working on trying to, help change the minds of people who are outside.
Perception.
Yeah, the public's perception.
So
I think
Brian,
it's super important.
What is the trend that you're seeing with your technology? I mean, are you guys growing? Are people embracing?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And tell us about it. Yeah. What are you seeing?
So going back to that, I'll do a little bragging, maybe just a little bit.
Of course.
Please brag.
So when I started in 2016, we took calls from 45 facilities. Today it's 1,000.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. That's so that's a lot.
Right.
It's a lot. In January,
all kinds of people, like other operators.
So literally, we've got 220 customers, universities, municipalities, private operators, real estate.
That's great.
It's across the board, because the good news for us is if you've got a parking facility, you have to park the cars. So
Right.
everybody that's decided to take on that task of parking as an operator, and if you're putting in gates, or even if it's gateless, you have to be able to inform the public about how to park there.
Right.
Or you have to help the customer get out of the parking garage if they're stuck, because we know that 85% of the time that someone pushes the help button, it is because they are confused or they're broken.
Right.
The machines only break about 15% of the time. It's probably actually even less than that now.
Right.
And so 60 million times a year, someone presses a help button in a parking facility because they're confused. They don't know what to do.
Right.
And so it's a big problem. And, so at 1,000 facilities, we take 160,000 calls a month.
Wow.
That was 5,000 in 2016.
That's a lot of talking.
That's a lot of confusion.
That's a lot of confusion.
It's a lot of confusion.
But that goes to say, right? Like people almost need to be not told what to do, but they just need to be reassured about what to do.
Yeah.
Some people aren't confused. There's a small percentage that
are trying to game the system.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That has
Lost
become
my credential.
Yeah. Technology is really
going back into like you just said, like, oh, I lost my credential. My reservation's not working. But that's so important. Why we need to come together as an industry.
Yeah, technology is really closing that gap.
It is closing.
People. I mean, I can we had the city of Denver reach out to us, and they're like, "Oh, these people just, they went on one of your lots, and they were there for less than 20 minutes, which there's a 20-minute grace period." So I'm thinking to myself, that's impossible. But let's hear this out. And your lot was full, so I said, "Well, let me check it out. Give me the notice number." And it was great because we have Halo on that lot, which is an occupancy tool. So I'm like, well, so I called him back. I'm like, yeah, he wasn't there for 20 minutes, under 20 minutes. He was actually there for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
The lot was 70% full, and he actually pulled into a space and stayed there for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
The guy's like, how do you know all that? I'm like, we know it.
Eyes
It's
in the
technology.
sky.
So, are you in the customer service business now? City of Denver? Like, are you going to take every call and just take it and run with it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They should push that stuff back to us and data, and then coupled with systems like yours, it's like it's going to become difficult to kind of make up a story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So if you'll indulge me just a minute, right? We get those calls all the time. Okay, so Tammy Baker, our COO, she is a rock star. I defy you to find anybody that would outwork Tammy Baker. Impossible. Yeah. So she'll get the call because people call her personally, right? They've known her for a long time, and they're like, "Hey, your customer service representative, sort of, our customers telling us that your customer service person was really rude." And Tammy will be like, "Okay, well, let's go to the tape."
Yeah.
Let's go
let's pull this call.
Let's go to the tape. I love it.
Yeah.
And it's like the Progressive commercials throwing the flag, and I can tell you that 98% of the time, every once in a while, the CSR did not quite get it right. Very, very seldom do they lose their cool, but not 98% of the time, it is just the opposite, and we can show that person was.
We
really
have
good.
that here too with the recordings.
Yeah,
and we're applying some technology that's making it easier to go back and pull stuff up and ticket numbers, like all kinds of stuff. That's puts an end to that.
People think that parking is the same as it was in
the cigar box.
The honor boxes
and the old boot
where no one was watching. They could put money in or not, and say that they could be like, "Oh, I put money in, tire. Someone stole it." Yeah, no, we're in different times now, and you guys, Parker technology definitely makes it a lot easier and more convenient.
I'm sure you guys get some funny recordings.
Oh,
love to hear some.
We get some funny recordings. So I'll tell you a story too. So two quick stories. So the first is, and this was actually my daughter. So my daughter for a summer, this is probably back at 17. She worked in the call center, so she took calls, and so it was probably midnight, and she took a call from a woman who was stuck at a gate, and the instructions from the owners, right? Because we're following the rules that the owner tells us to follow. Like put a light touch on them, let them out. No, this is Central Business District. Nobody gets out. Not even my mom gets out. Right. And so she claimed to have cash, right? This is right.
Okay. I don't have. Yeah.
And so I said, I don't have a credit card. I just have cash.
Card,
And so Emerson, my daughter, she said, "Well, I'm sorry. If you want to pay cash, then you're going to have to back out, park, and then go back to the kiosk to the pan foot." And this woman leans back and sticks her stiletto high heel out the window to show, because it was 2A video, right? To show Emerson, she's like, "I am not walking back to the pay on foot with these."
Oh my gosh. Well, how did you get to your car with those,
So you went about your day walking barefoot?
Yeah. So I think she impressed upon her that she had to go back, or she magically found a credit card. We've all heard those stories.
Oh, yeah.
As we all know.
Yeah.
That happens.
Oh, look at.
Yeah. So, and then there are various stories of people in various in various stages of dress as they're pulling to the gate to pay for parking,
and states of mind too. I'm sure.
Without a doubt. In fact, we've got a recording of a police officer in various states of mind. Yeah. So. Crazy.
Yeah. It always when I was in operations and I would go back, we would have those same types of requests from ownership about, hey, your CSR, they were really rude over the intercom. Like this person is really upset. I'm like, okay, great. Like you said, let's pull the recording. Let's pull the tapes. You send it, and ownerships, they're like, we are so embarrassed. We are so sorry. We never. I was like, yeah. Or we have like when people just run through gates.
Yeah.
Versus paying for, $10 parking or just hitting the help button.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, you wanted to do a few $1,000s of damage to your car versus, all right.
So Parker Technology is doing well.
Yeah.
You guys are, you're doing a wonderful job at marketing.
I appreciate that. Heidi Barker will be Barber. Oh, sorry.
Oh, now we're gonna have to.
No. You don't have to edit it out because this is also a funny story, right? So Heidi, before she got married, was Barker.
Oh, okay.
And then she got married and it was Barber.
So yeah.
Wow, that's pretty close.
And so my nickname for her, the nickname that we developed, is Typo. right? Right.
And then,
That's clever.
We're gonna have to snip this and send it to her.
Yeah. If
you're out
Heidi's
there-
wonderful, by the
Yeah,
way.
she's-
Yeah.
Typo,
She's-
if you're out there, you're doing a great job.
Yeah. So Heidi has taken our exposure to the next level, right? As good as Tammy Baker is on the operations side and the dev side, Heidi is just as good on the marketing side. I have got an awesome team.
You have a great team.
Oh my goodness.
You have a wonderful
Ted
team.
King on the sales
And you guys
side.
are doing wonderful, wonderful. Oh, and Kent.
Yeah.
I love Kent.
Good to see Ken yesterday. Yeah.
And you guys are doing really great things. You guys I don't know how new this integration is, but you're partnering with Akra.
Yeah, for
right?
sure. Yep.
So can you we just had Ethan on. Can you tell us a little bit about what that integration specifically means and how that's going to be customer
Good question,
facing?
Danny.
Yep.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, great question. So first, Ethan is an exceptional
Absolutely.
young man and an exceptional business person. He is so wise beyond his years. It is one of the things.
He's
truly
well
that-
liked. He's
he's
just a great guy.
and he's everywhere. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know how he does it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love the story about the fact that he and Nate parked cars.
Yeah.
Right.
And then they tried to solve their own problem, and then they realized that their own problem was everyone else's problem. And so he's not a technology guy that flies in and goes, "Oh, I'm going to solve this parking problem." It's parking. How hard could it be?
Yeah.
Right. And they
Right.
crash and burn in 2 years because they realized that parking is a lot harder. He went from the ground up. He did it the right way.
Right.
And then the whole idea is when I met him in Rito, and so
It was the
Frank.
first time I met him too, I think. Yeah.
So Frank Panero put us in touch because Frank was like, he put his arm around my shoulder. I don't know if you know Frank Panero.
Yeah. Barnacle. He was with
Barnacle, right?
for a little
Barnacle,
while.
and
Yeah.
now a couple of different other opportunities. And I would give him a plug for his company, but I'll get it mixed up with there's all these reservation systems.
Yeah.
So Frank, I'm sorry
Right.
if you're listening. I'll give
Frank
you a plug.
lives here now.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he moved here.
Yeah.
And he still owes me a lunch.
Okay, well now maybe
So
we
Frank,
can
if
call
you're
him
out there, let's get to lunch soon.
Yeah. So when we were raising capital, I was talking about building what we called a Parker Gateway, right?
Yep.
So the whole idea is let's make it easier for the public to use whatever they want to use to pay for parking, right?
Yep.
And so we would talk about this gateway, similar to a Visa and MasterCard. You could walk in and I can't use a Visa because I have to use a MasterCard, but now I can use any card in any machine and it just
Right.
works,
Yeah.
right? Why don't we have that for parking?
Yeah.
So I'd pitched that idea, and then Frank was like, I need you to meet these two guys. So I met Ethan and Nate, and they were telling me about what they were doing on the reservation side to sort of put a management console in front of all these different channels.
Right.
And I was like, well, damn, they've already built sort of a quarter or a half of what I was envisioning. So maybe we should, talk to them about working together.
Yeah.
And then the more time I spent with them, the more it became obviously that Ethan is a smart young man. He's built a great team. He's built a very sophisticated piece of software that I told my board when we decided to do the investment in Akra, I was like, I could chase them and spend twice as much and maybe be half as good, or why don't we just partner with them? Let's put our money where our mouth
just
is.
collaborate, yeah.
And then let's get further faster so that now I can see a reservation through Akra that Spot Hero and ParkWiz and all of those demand channels, they don't want to build a bridge, an API bridge to me. So why can't I just leverage Akra's, all the work that they do because it's core to what they do?
Yeah.
I see the same thing going on with PRRS, right? Your core business is your core business. I just need to see the information.
Right.
So why don't we just build a central place where we can just pull the information
Absolutely.
when we need it?
Yeah.
So that's what I saw. In addition to the obviously Ethan is an exceptional
exceptional
business
human.
person.
And like these
Yeah.
collaborations are exactly like, I don't know why it's taken the industry so long for these collaborations to
Yeah,
happen.
we're-
Obviously we didn't have an Akra even just
Right.
a few years ago.
Yeah.
But even, it's so important for the asset owner, the operator, everyone to see what's going on, for even like, the guest who's at the gate
Yeah.
or
I
in a
told
service
you.
lot.
I told you on our last show. I'm going to mention it every time. I mean, our industry doesn't do a good job at collaboration, and we're starting to do a better job.
And I think it's because
And
we have like the Ethans of the world who are creating these, who are building these incredible solutions and who are more than open to to collaboration, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
we're entering a new era of parking.
I think it's an evolution of
Yeah.
cycling people in and out. And I think the younger generation sees the value.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're experiencing. And, there's more collaboration going on.
the
I think
younger
there's
generation. We work a lot smarter.
yeah.
You work a lot smarter.
That's good.
I will say,
for you. Giving yourself a plug. Yeah.
I will also say that, one of the things that attracted me to parking is that in 2006, when we started Blue Lock, we literally lived through the digital transformation of IT. Okay, so nobody in their right mind today would buy a server from HP and provision it without some virtualization layer. Okay, like nobody would do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Or maybe these biggest companies with some database, that has to go super fast or whatever, right? I mean, I can have access to the biggest server you could ever imagine by just borrowing your laptop and logging into AWS or Azure, right? And you can have stuff instantly. And so that digital transformation started probably for parking with the phone.
Right.
And now we've got all kinds of innovation that ultimately is going to make it easier for the operators to operate the garage, but for the parking customers to pay for parking and for us to capture or to comply.
Right.
Because we want to make it easier to comply.
That's right.
Right. And then everybody wins because they don't have to interact with a human until they have a problem. Nobody wants to interact. Not even a 50-year-old wants to interact with a human until I need help, and then I want help.
Yeah.
And I want it right away.
I want it right now.
You need help, you have a question, you need just...
So this API with Okra, is that going to allow your team then to see reservations and be able to help people that might have... Okay.
Yeah. So the customer comes to the garage. They say, I have a reservation. The gate's not going up. Give me the reservation number. We can put it in. We build it into, we've got a little pop-up screen that allows them to put that reservation in, and then I'm going back to Okra to be able to see the reservation through whatever, if it's SpotWiz or
SpotWiz, I love that.
SpotWiz. Now I sound like Bill Belichick.
Hey, that might,
Face hoot.
Well, that's actually how it's. We get it. We get what you're trying to put across.
So do you guys have your? So that data flows into what? Something that you guys are working out of?
So we are just querying the database, and then if that reservation number ends up in the notes, then we can capture the notes. But I don't want that data sitting in my database. I want to go get it.
You just want to go get it?
I just want to go get it.
Okay.
Right? I want to go get your information. I want to get PRRS's data, right? I don't want it because you just
want to be able to answer a question.
Well, you're taking care of it, right? You're securing it. You're taking care of it because that's your core business. I just need to see it for a minute to be more helpful to the customer. And then I'm happy to turn it back. And then we can build, and I know you and Mike Drow are beating this drum, right? I think we can build this network of collaborators behind the scenes that will make it ultimately easier for operators to operate their facilities, but also parkers to pay for parking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my ultimate goal is to be. I want to be viewed as from the media as wow, this is Johnny Appleseed going out. He's helping everyone. He's trying to help people. He's not really a scumbag, right?
You're not. You're a wonderurful person.
I've listened to a lot of your podcasts, and I haven't heard you refer to yourself as Johnny Appleseed yet.
You're right.
So now I think that's actually gonna catch on.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna. That's gonna be a thing moving forward. So
I want to be Johnny Appleseed. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So
we'll get there. You're a wonderful human. We get some weird feedback from random people sometimes.
Yep. So okay, so Parker Technology's doing great. You've done a wonderful job there. Tell us about
Appreciate
the podcast.
That.
Yeah, let's dive into that. Sorry, we got real deep there, but
so what's funny is, as you can imagine, because you already know that podcasting is harder than it looks.
Yeah,
it is.
It is.
All right.
This may or may not be recording right now, so
I know.
we'll see.
I'll
we'll
tell
find
you
out.
what. If any of this gets messed up the last 2 days, Seth is going to be back here.
For sure.
We had this remote thing, all this remote stuff that he's taken out.
Well, Seth has left us alone, and this is a good thing or a bad thing. We're not sure, so we're about to find out. But harder than it looks.
So we're trying to do something a little bit different. And again, I don't know if this is going to work. It's like for a crossover perspective. So we run 2 segments. So the first segment is a parking segment. We're just trying to obviously just expose people to different thinking, help people understand how hard parking is. Honestly, for me, I'm also trying to be very intentional about creating a wider circle.
Yeah.
So lots of women, lots of diverse, black and yellow and red people. So if there's somebody that's listening to this and they want to contribute that way, then I'm taking all comers because I'm trying to widen the net, right? I'm trying to.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm trying to get away from lots of pale male in parking, right?
Absolutely.
And we don't want it. I'd like to invite others in.
We've talked about it on this show, when we had Kendra on. And
we need more women on the show. I would love to have Heidi, so I'm going to
do that.
Yeah, I would love to have Heidi on the show. So I'm definitely going to reach out to her.
And we have a couple of different lists. We can absolutely collaborate across lists because I had a couple. So Maria Ershad, fabulous. I mean, and I learned things about, this is the other thing I love. I learned things about these folks because, you sort of take them through their history and, it was good. It was really good.
Yeah.
I honestly, I think there's room for. I think there's 3 podcasts right now that there's this show.
Yeah.
I think there's your show, and then there's Isaiah Mao's show.
Yep.
I think honestly, they all have different personalities, and I think it's great. Isaiah was actually here in the studio. We're gonna get him on. But yeah, I mean, it's. There's no competition. I think there's room for.
I think we're all trying to do something similar, but yet so different, right?
Yeah,
like
for sure.
I love how you segment your shows.
Right.
I really, really like that. Like I think because it was one of the most recent episodes that I listened to with Ethan.
With
it was
his
Ethan
dad.
and his dad. I thought that was so unique. Like what a cool, because Ethan talks about growing up in an entrepreneurial family and
the pencil company.
The pencil company. And I'm laughing only because I listened to this last night actually, and John relating pencils to beer, to kegs. Of course he would.
Yeah. Trying to get around the.
It was a brilliant idea. I listened to the podcast this morning.
Yeah.
Right?
I thought it was
selling
so funny.
pencils.
Yeah.
Back to the fraternity house.
Oh my God.
Then taking the profit.
Your
wheels are always turning.
And then you listen to Ethan and his dad's story, and it's so humble. That was a very cool segment. So kudos to you on bringing that together. I think that's very special.
So what you will totally appreciate is when you see Dan Glass's operation in Chicago, he is buttoned up, man. I mean, you walk in and it is all about the customer. I was so impressed. It does not surprise me that Ethan turned out the way he did because of the stock that Dan Glass created. Dan, and obviously I haven't met his wife, but it was super impressive. You could tell that they want to make sure that the customer experience is above everything else.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And you can tell that flows right through Ethan as well. He's very much about that as well.
Yeah. So you can actually help me because as we work our way through the parking industry, right? This concept of what else is harder than it looks. Because I'm trying to expose people so that the parking people can commiserate with the fact that there are other things that are really hard to do. And so that it gives people a different perspective, but it's also sort of this, okay, maybe somebody else will listen to the podcast because I'm doing a segment too on climbing or running marathons or flying planes or starting businesses or whatever. So if you have friends that want to tell you about something that was really hard, you should send them to me and we'll do a segment.
Yeah. And I'm probably I can send people your way who it's like, parking is actually really hard from an outsider perspective.
And we're
I think that's the avenue.
Yeah,
I think we can actually go consumer view.
Right.
Yeah, we want to do. We also want to do a show of I think we want to call it the outsiders. I think we've determined that. But
brilliant.
Bring some people in who know nothing about the industry.
We are bringing because we try to relate. Kind of business and life, and then somehow you interweave it with parking. So we have a Denver Bronco that's going to be here in the studio, and really the focus is going to be, this guy's 5'11".
Yeah.
How did you get to be a Pro Bowler in the NFL? and go to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Right. And you're 5'11", right? So whatever that person did, they worked hard. That's going to be the message that I want to deliver to the people, the young people. It doesn't matter what you're doing, your NFL, your parking or whatever. That person, like, I want to hear that story, right? What did you do? Because you didn't just wake up one day and you're a Denver Bronco in a Pro Bowl.
Yeah,
right?
I think for me that goes back to that individual is obviously super talented, and that talent got them to high school, and then that talent at high school got them discovered probably by a college, by a university. And then when they got to the university, they realized that talent wasn't going to get them any further. They were going to have to really or they had that work ethic maybe in high school. But the point is, you can't get to the highest levels without grinding,
hyper focus.
Just being maniacal about getting better, because everybody's got talent.
And that is a message that every young person that's in an industry working, and you want to have all the things that you want to have. Yeah. It doesn't just happen. And I think somehow that message has been lost.
Yeah.
On the I mean, I'm an older generation, but I think the younger not everybody, but I think that needs to be highlighted in spotlight. Things don't just happen, right?
Well,
you have to make them happen.
Yeah, I think the pressure is on the parents.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I can remember my poor kids. They would come home with straight A's, or there'd be an A- on their card, and I'd be like, "Is that the best you can do?" And they knew it was a joke, but it kind of wasn't a joke.
Yeah.
Well, good job. But what about the next report card?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So.
My parents bribed me. They were like, "Hey, any B that you can get, we'll give you $20." I was like, "Why would I not do that?" Like, of course. I mean, I was definitely not a straight A student in high school.
Neither was I.
Not at all. But it was always like, how can you do better? Like, how can? I mean, maybe bribing's not the right way to do it.
No.
For me, it worked.
Yes, they cared enough to tap into. Yeah. Right? They were trying to motivate you. In the end, they were just trying to hold you accountable.
Yeah.
Okay? As parents, we just have to hold our kids accountable, tell them we love them no matter what, but we expect more from them. I expect my kids to stand on my shoulders the way I stood on my parents' shoulders. Mm-hmm. That's what's expected of them.
Yeah. So, Brian, as we wind down, because we're getting towards the end of the show, but where do you see the industry in the next couple of years?
Well, there is no question that the way to get it done is collaboration, right? And so you can already begin to see the big companies are building their own technology, which is fine. If they've got the cash and the cash flow to do it, that's great. But the fragmentation of the industry is that we've got to enable that middle band to be able to compete across all of the technology segments. So I have to be able to see a license plate, but maybe I need to see who's walking through my garage. I love the message about it is not just LPR. It is about being able to see things and build intelligence into your system so that you can understand what's going on in your parking facilities.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, sporting events, imagine, where we want to be is I could tell you, I'm back to NASCAR. But,
oh God. I feel like we talk about NASCAR every single. It's fine.
I can tell,
I'm getting used to it.
If I could tell Kyle Busch's team how many shirts and which tracks are favorable to Kyle Busch versus Denny Hamlin or something else, that's important to somebody.
Absolutely,
right?
You're right.
So this track is a Kyle Busch track.
Yeah.
There was 1,000 Kyle Busch T-shirts, right? And that's the kind of data that we're getting into that's beyond parking, right? And beyond LPR.
Well, you should talk about it from your perspective because you're running events.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so the customer is parking, but then you're also trying to create experiences all along the way.
From the moment that they park to like the path that they take, the path that they take, whether they get on a shuttle or sidewalk or how they get into the venue. Yeah. It's still the second that they hit our assets drive in any capacity, like that is us. That is us. And so what we're doing is, I think, is something incredible. And we're really trying to make an impact
now
on the industry.
Think about taking some data back to your venue. You guys are the venue operator.
We are
but
so
saying,
data driven. I have never been like knees deep, like chin deep into data than I have since I've been at OVG. And I love it because data speaks volumes. Like
Yeah,
you could
I
tell
mean,
your asset owner
well,
all
you know.
day.
Number
Yeah.
17.
Yeah.
His
You
shirt
can-
is
exactly.
going to sell well over here. So
Yeah.
make sure you've got a lot of
Yeah.
17s,
Yeah.
right?
Or you might lean in because you've clearly got momentum.
Right.
Right. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I love it.
I think the thing is, this is the easier we make parking to be a part of the total experience, because it's always been sort of disconnected.
Yep.
And I think
Absolutely.
OVG clearly has got it where you got to get parking involved sooner, and it's a reservation. It's Ticketmaster. It's clicking here and you buy your parking. We have to make these the ability to park and the ability to make that experience as seamless as possible.
Right.
So that parking becomes a non-issue, but we make money, which is what we want to do. We want to park cars and we want to make money. That's
Yeah,
right.
we want
It's
to
really
provide
that
value
simple.
to our assets, right?
Yeah.
We want to provide value to the assets, but also to the guest experience.
Yeah.
And the great thing about what we do is we don't know just what goes on the outside. We know the inside as
Yeah.
well as we know the outside,
Yeah.
because that is what we do. We specialize in that guest experience from a venue perspective, and that's what I love. And data speaks volumes. So
Yes, it does.
Brian.
Know before you go.
Yeah, know before you. Oh my God, we can do a whole other show on that. But Brian, before we leave, again, I want to thank you, but for everyone around here, our listeners, what if one key piece of information?
Yeah.
If you could leave anyone with anything today, what is that?
We're going to get further. If you want to go far, you got to go together. If you want, so what's the phrase? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
There you go. I love
Brian,
that.
I love that. This has been such a pleasure.
So how are
butchered it,
people
but-
going to listen to your podcast? Where do they go?
So you can go to any of the popular podcast
And
platforms.
what's it called
It's
again?
called Harder Than It Looks, Parking Uncovered.
Harder than
You
it
can
looks.
listen on Spotify, Apple. Are you on YouTube?
Oh yeah, we're on YouTube as well.
Harder Than
Spotify,
It
Apple,
Looks.
YouTube.
And stay tuned because John and Dani are going to be on.
Oh, we're
Harder Than It
we're
Looks.
coming to Harder Than It
We're
Looks. I love it.
coming to Harder Than It Looks.
Everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. We
Yeah.
got Brian Wolff with 2 Fs, by the
With 2
way.
Fs.
Brian
Yes.
Wolff with 2 Fs, Parker Technology, and Harder Than It Looks podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Thank you
we'll
for
see you
coming.
next time. And Dani, we'll see you in Amsterdam.
See you in Amsterdam.
Yeah. Talk to you.